Like any strapping young lad born in the early 80s, my development was basically a 4-step process. Learn to breathe, learn to eat, learn to pee behind the couch, and discover the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. True story, my first word was cowabunga. So the release of this game was really the first major turning point in my life. I mean, I remember literally doing a backflip when my parents bought me a copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was gonna be the game, you know? This game was supposed to keep me busy at least until the Berlin Wall fell down. An event to which, when I saw on the news, I replied, cowabunga. I did not, however, utilize that word in reaction to this game. I just got angry and peed behind the couch. In fact, I think a lot of us did back then, but because we obviously couldn't buy our own video games, we played it anyway. And we played it a lot. And although repeated playthroughs may not have swayed everyone, they did sway me. After 20 long years, I'm finally willing to say this extremely flawed game is still a lot of fun. Now, this version of TMNT was an all-new, all-original game developed by Konami, or Ultra, depending on your familiarity with the company's history. And unlike the great arcade game, this game offers a very different spin on the franchise. Perhaps the most notable difference is that Konami ignored almost every character from the comics and cartoons, and instead created a world populated by random and completely unrelated enemies. So for fans, that was a huge disappointment. I mean, sure, it did have Shredder and a few of his henchmen, but for the most part, you had to fight totally arbitrary foes. The fire guy, the walking eyeballs, the diving butterfly missile things. I mean, it may have said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the packaging, but this felt really separated from the TMNT universe. And to be honest, I think that's where most of the animosity toward this game is primarily rooted. Because if you can get past the odd characters and lack of familiar faces, there's a decent, old-school beat-em-up that offers plenty of fun in its own right. The obvious hook with this TMNT game is that it lets you switch between any of the 4 turtles on the fly. This is an awesome feature that enables you to adapt to the game's situations. Since each turtle's weapon has different strength and range, the ability to tag them in and out allowed you to counter your foes appropriately. Not to mention manage your health, which you'll definitely need to do. Another fantastic aspect of TMNT was its gameplay variety. This was released during a time in which most games played from one perspective, but TMNT was literally all over the map. Now, the bulk of the experience was side-scrolling action platforming, but there were also overhead segments, there were driving segments, and of course there was that infamously difficult swimming segment. A segment which, by the way, I just dominated. Like I said, I played this a lot. So, aside from the character design, where does this otherwise seemingly solid game go wrong? Well, most importantly, it's extremely unbalanced, from the abilities of the turtles to the placement of the enemies. Also, the jumping can be frustratingly imprecise, and that makes the platforming segments even more difficult than they already are. As if this wasn't already one of the most difficult NES games you'll play. Looking at it retrospectively, this game is probably best remembered as a deliberately brutal test of both your patience and your skill with the D-pad. It's got way too many design flaws to be as outstanding as TMNT 2, the arcade game, and its subsequent sequels, but these sewers are definitely worth visiting. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles may not deserve a cowabunga, but after 2 decades, it's finally earned, at least from me, a hearty bossa nova.